It began over the quiet forests of western Russia. The sky was pale, the air still, and then a sound distant, metallic, deliberate. A lone aircraft, low and fast, cutting through the treetops. Its call sign, Falcon 1. At 2:40 in the afternoon, Ukrainian command authorized a mission few would survive. A single MiG-29, armed with two French-built AASM Hammer precision bombs, was ordered to cross the border. The target, a logistics hub at Bely Bereska, a lifeline for Russian ground forces. Destroy it, and entire batteries of artillery would fall silent. Miss, and the pilot would vanish into the forest below. Every second of flight carried risk. Electronic warfare blanketed the region. Russian jammers turned the air into static. Satellites flickered off the navigation screen. The pilot flew blind, guided only by a folded paper map taped beside the cockpit glass. At tree level, the MiG sliced across the train altitude barely 200 feet. Each ridge flashed beneath the wings. Each radio tower passed within meters. Fuel was limited. One run only. No margin for mistakes. Then came the warning, toned sharp, sudden, unfamiliar. A black speck streaked toward the canopy. A bird, drawn into the left intake. There was a metallic crack, then silence. Flames burst from the engine. Thrust collapsed. The aircraft yawed violently to port. The pilot fought the controls. Right rudder hard. Stig aft. The forest rushed upward. Hydraulic pressure falling. Altitude spinning down. He hit the emergency restart. The second engine screamed, dragging the crippled jet level above the trees. For a heartbeat, the sky held still. And then, everything changed. The jet trembled, metal shrieking under stress. Smoke trailed from the left engine, thin but rising. Inside the cockpit, the warning panel was a storm of red. Hydraulic pressure low, oil temperature critical, firelight steady. The pilot stayed calm. He had trained for this. Full right rudder, throttle check, throttle correction. The MiG fought against its own broken symmetry, rolling and shuddering as it clawed for altitude. Every vibration felt like a countdown. He could hear his breathing echoing through the oxygen mask, shallow, measured, human. Altitude, 160 meters. Speed, 600 kilometers per hour. He had less than 10 seconds to recover. He pulled the stick back. The jet's nose rose just above the horizon. Branches flashed inches from the canopy. Then, a spark. The left engine coughed, caught, and reignited with a belch of smoke. The airframe steadied. The crisis for now was contained. 50 kilometers away, in a small Russian radar station near Klomovo, an operator noticed a faint trace at the bottom of his scope. It blinked in and out, irregular, almost ghost-like. He adjusted the gain, squinting at the green haze. A target appeared, then vanished again. Too slow for a missile, too fast for a drone. He hesitated. It did not match any known profile. He marked it as clutter. A flock of cranes, perhaps, and turned away to log the end of his shift. For 2 minutes, the screen was unmonitored. During those same 2 minutes, Falcon 1 leveled out over the forest. He checked his gauges. Fuel quantity, critical. The bird strike had burned precious reserves. He calculated 3 minutes to target no second chance. Wind direction steady. Sun angle correct. Navigation systems jammed beyond use. He relied on the paper chart. Edges frayed, marked with pencil lines. The electronic warfare spectrum was alive. Russian jammers filled the valley with noise so intense it crackled in his headset. Every instrument blinked. The radar altimeter froze. Compass needles spun without direction. He was flying through a fog of static blind, deaf, but not paralyzed. He trusted instinct. Years of training in a machine built to survive chaos. Then, the valley opened. Ahead lay a series of steel towers, high-voltage lines, strung like webs across the terrain. They rose 60 meters above the forest floor. He saw them too late. 2 seconds to react, He pulled hard. 5Gs crushed him into the seat. Blood drained from his head. The world narrowed to gray. The MiG cleared the cables by less than 10 meters. The electromagnetic surge washed over the fuselage, flickering every gauge. Still, he held the climb. At Bryansk, the Russian air defense network stirred again. Another radar, the Nebo-M, reported a low-level return heading northeast. Command requested visual confirmation. None came. The podlet crew was off console. The intercept orders stalled. What might have been an organized response dissolved into confusion. Every minute of uncertainty bought the MiG another 10 kilometers of life. The pilot reached the last waypoint, a bend in the Desna River. That was the initial point. Beyond it, 10 kilometers to the target. He took a final breath. Throttle forward. Both engines howled. The MiG climbed sharply, breaking through thin clouds. For the first time since the border, he saw open sky. The aircraft shook violently. The damaged left engine vibrated at dangerous resonance. Inside the cockpit, another alarm sounded: weapon interface error. The French-built AASM bombs were connected through a makeshift Soviet adapter. Voltage mismatch. The fire control computer flash connection lost. He cycled switches manually. Error persisted. He had one last backup: the emergency release circuit. A simple mechanical failsafe bypassing the digital system. He tested the trigger. It clicked once. Still green light on the arm panel. Functional. Far to the north, the Russian airbase at Klomovo launched an interceptor. A Su-35 lifted into the sky, afterburners blazing. Its radar quickly found the faint reflection of the climbing MiG. Lock confirmed. Weapon free. One R-37M missile leapt from its rail, accelerating beyond Mach 6. Time to impact, 36 seconds. The Ukrainian pilot's threat receiver shrieked. A long, rising tone. Missile inbound. Bearing 045. Closing fast. He stayed on course. He could not evade yet. He had to complete the climb, reach the release point, and drop the payload. Only then could he fight for survival. 7,000 meters. The MiG was nearly vertical. G-force pressed the pilot into the seat, his vision narrowing to a tunnel. Oxygen mask tight. Breath shallow. He reached for the emergency switch. Pressed. Once nothing. Pressed again. Click. Release. 2 bombs fell free. Their rocket motors igniting for 3 seconds, pushing them into the upper sky before gravity claimed them. The pilot rolled inverted. The missile warning screamed louder. He dumped chaff 3 bursts, then silence. The ECM pod overheated and shut down. With no defenses left, he used the oldest trick in the book, the notch. He turned sharply, placing the missile 90 degrees off his nose. From the missile's radar, his motion vanished. Relative velocity zero. The seeker broke lock. The R-37M roared past, detonating harmlessly in the thin air. The MiG dived for the forest, disappearing beneath the radar horizon. Behind him, the 2 AASM bombs began their long, silent fall toward the Russian border post. The clock ticked. 4 minutes to impact. And below, the defenders were still waking up. High above the clouds, 2 French-built AASM bombs curved into the sky. Their rocket boosters fired for 3 seconds, lifting them to nearly 9,000 meters. Then, silence. They began their deadly fall. Below, Russian radar sites came alive. At Klomovo, operators saw 2 faint returns. Small, fast, descending at impossible angles. To the computers, they looked like debris. Not aircraft, not missiles, just noise. But someone gave the order engage anyway. 2 S-400 missiles launched, each the size of a telephone pole. They climbed on plumes of fire, turning their noses toward the falling objects. Yet the intercept algorithms struggled. These bombs did not fly like jets or drones. They tumbled through thin air, Unpredictable, nearly vertical. The software demanded a straight line. Gravity gave it chaos. The system froze, unable to compute a firing solution. Both missiles streaked past harmlessly, self-destructing high above the clouds. Inside the Russian base, panic followed. The local Panzer S-1 operator tracked the bombs on a small monochrome display. Angle of approach 87 degrees. Velocity over 300 meters per second. The computer flashed red. Target outside engagement envelope. He fired anyway. 2 missiles screamed upward but armed too late, their fuses activating just as the bombs plunged below them. The explosions filled the sky with fragments but hit nothing. He switched to guns. Twin 30mm cannons roared, spitting tungsten shells. Tracer fire carved white lines through the haze, climbing until the barrels reached their physical stop at 85 degrees. The bombs were still higher. Physics won again. The shells missed by less than a meter. At 2:51 in the afternoon, the first bomb struck. Its trajectory was imperfect, 12 meters off target. But precision is not always measured in meters. The shaped charge cut sideways through reinforced concrete, melting steel beams into liquid metal. Walls collapsed inward. The building did not simply break, it folded. 17 seconds later, the second bomb arrived. It hit the vehicle yard, piercing the corner where fuel trucks idled. 1,000 liters of diesel erupted into mist. The warhead ignited the vapor. The result was a fuel-air explosion hotter than any conventional detonation. The shockwave flattened everything within 100 meters. Armor plates peeled open like paper. Flames rolled skyward, towering above the tree line. For 30 seconds, the entire valley glowed orange. In the command bunker, monitors went white, then black. Power failed. Antennas melted from the heat. When the smoke cleared, the base was gone, a crater filled with debris, burning fuel and silence. Far above the horizon, the MiG pilot heard the faint echo of the blast through his headset. He turned south, heading for home. Fuel was almost zero, both engines coughing. He crossed the border at treetop height, radar silent, transponder off. His voice over the radio was steady. Mission complete. Then static. Minutes later, the MiG landed hard on a rough Ukrainian strip. The tires burst. The fuselage scraped the concrete. But the pilot climbed out alive. His flight suit scorched. His eyes fixed on the northern sky. Behind him, technicians counted 2 empty bomb racks and 1 victory. Analysts who later reviewed the data saw more than luck. They saw a chain of human hesitation. Radar operators uncertain. Commanders waiting for clearance. Algorithms demanding perfection before firing. Every delay compounded. Every doubt multiplied. In the end, the system failed not because of poor hardware, but because it was built on obedience, not initiative. Machines followed orders. Humans followed fear. And precision was defeated by improvisation. The strike was small. 2 bombs, 1 jet, 1 pilot. But its impact rippled far beyond the forest. It showed how modern warfare is decided not by who has the most technology, but by who adapts fastest when the plan collapses. By dusk, the fire at Belyberezka still burned. What had been a logistics hub only hours before was now a field of molten metal and shattered concrete. Russian recovery teams arrived long after the flames had consumed everything. Engines melted, ammunition depot detonated, communication lines severed. For one small strike, the loss exceeded $20 million in equipment and far more in credibility. The investigation came quickly. Radar logs showed the contact. Operators admitted hesitation. Commanders blamed interference. Technicians blamed software. But the truth was simpler. The system had collapsed under its own weight. Too many layers. Too many confirmations. No one acted until it was too late. From Washington to Warsaw, analysts studied the footage frame by frame. They saw a pattern that every strategist recognizes: a structure so rigid it cannot bend, and therefore it breaks. Modern combat is not a contest of perfect machines. It is a contest of human adaptability. And in that domain, the West has always held the edge. American doctrine was built on flexibility, redundant systems, cross-trained crews, and a culture that rewards decision, not hesitation. When a U.S. aircraft loses its radar, another platform fills the gap. When a system fails, a pilot improvises, confident that command will support initiative. That is the difference between technology and mastery of it. The strike at Berezka was a warning written in fire. It told every commander who watched that even the strongest network can fail if it cannot think for itself. And in the skies of modern war, those who adapt survive. If you found this analysis valuable, let us know. Hit the like button, subscribe for more battlefield breakdowns and inside looks at modern warfare. And share your thoughts below. What lessons do you think this strike teaches the world about the next generation of combat?